Have you ever wondered what separates a good company from a truly great one? You know, the kind that thrives not just for a few years, but for decades? It's not always about having the flashiest product. A lot of the time, their secret weapon is something you can't even see. It's this invisible engine that powers everything behind the scenes.
So, what is this invisible engine? What's the common thread that links the world's most successful and, just as importantly, most resilient companies? Is it some genius marketing campaign? A revolutionary new invention? Well, sure, those things definitely help, but they aren't the bedrock. They aren't the foundation.
The real answer is their invisible engine, strong corporate governance. And I get it, the term governance can sound, well, a little dry, right? Like something out of a textbook. But stick with me, because this is the company's internal operating system. It's the set of rules and practices that dictates how a company is directed and controlled. It really is the powerful, unseen force that drives everything else.
So, why should you care about this stuff? Well, because this isn't just about following rules or filling out paperwork for the sake of it. Not at all. Good governance delivers real, tangible rewards that can literally make or break a company. Let's dive into what those payoffs actually look like. Okay, first up, and this is a big one, access to capital. It's pretty simple, actually. Companies that are transparent and well-governed are just seen as less risky bets. So for investors, for lenders, that solid internal structure inspires a ton of confidence, and that makes it way easier and cheaper for the company to get the funding it needs to grow.
And then there's this. Think of great governance as a kind of early warning system for a company. It creates a framework that helps the organization spot and manage all kinds of risks. We're talking financial, operational, reputational, you name it, before they spiral out of control into full-blown crises. And in today's world, just avoiding those big, nasty surprises is a massive competitive advantage.
All of this leads to what might just be the most valuable yet intangible asset any company can have: trust. It's that simple. When a company governs itself well, it earns the confidence of everyone involved, from shareholders and customers all the way to its own employees. And that trust, that's the glue that really holds the whole enterprise together. So let's pull this all together for a second. We're talking better access to money, fewer crises, which leads to smarter decisions, and of course, a stronger reputation. You can see how this all feeds into what every company is ultimately chasing: long-term sustainable value. It becomes this really powerful positive cycle.
Okay, so that's the theory, but what does this actually look like in practice, out in the wild? Let's take a look at some real-world examples and see how companies you definitely know have put this to work. We've got three very different businesses here, and each one has a really powerful lesson to teach us. And here we can see just how this plays out. You take a tech giant like Apple. Their intense focus on board diversity and data privacy isn't some move to slow down innovation. It's the exact opposite. It's about building the kind of deep trust they need to move even faster. Then you have a company like CIL Energy, where public awards for their governments become a key part of building market trust. And with VC Properties, it all comes down to the power of a truly independent board working with management. Three different companies, three unique lessons on the critical importance of balance, ethics, and oversight. So, if this is so important, how do you actually build one of these invisible engines? Well, it absolutely does not happen by accident. It's a very deliberate architectural process, and it's led by a company's board of directors, especially those crucial independent directors. You know, it might seem complicated, but you can really break the whole process down into three core pillars. I like to think of it like building a house. First, you've got to establish a solid blueprint. Then, you need to empower the watchtowers to keep an eye on things. And finally, you have to set the compass to make sure you're always heading in the right direction. So let's start with pillar one, the blueprint. This is all about the foundation. It means putting together the right team on the board. People with a diverse mix of skills and, critically, independent voices. It's about drawing really clear lines for who's responsible for what, the board versus the management team. You have to get that core structure right from day one. Okay, once that blueprint is in place, we move to the second pillar: empower the watchtowers. This is all about active oversight. This is where the board really earns its keep, making sure that risk management isn't just some afterthought and a binder on a shelf, but is baked right into the company's core strategy. They're the ones who foster a culture where it's not just safe, but encouraged to ask the tough questions, and they hold management accountable for actually delivering results. And this quote right here, it gets to the heart of the whole mindset shift. It's about moving beyond a simple checklist. The real question is always, how is our governance actually helping us achieve our goals? Are we being proactive here, or are we just reacting to problems as they pop up? It's a huge difference.
And that brings us to our final pillar, set the compass. This is all about looking forward and steering the ship. It's the board's job to set the company's long-term direction. That means championing transparency, talking to everyone who has a stake in the company, and making sure the board itself stays educated on huge emerging issues like AI. And maybe, most importantly, it's about fighting that constant pressure for short-term gains so they can make decisions that build real, lasting value for years to come.
So, you see, when you put it all together, you start to realize that corporate governance isn't some boring cost of doing business. It's not a compliance burden to be dealt with. It is, in fact, a strategic investment in the future. And it might just be the most sustainable competitive advantage any company can possibly have. If you take just one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. Good governance isn't really about the rules themselves. It's about the outcome. It's about building companies that are resilient enough to handle shocks, trustworthy enough to earn loyalty, and valuable enough to endure, not just for a quarter, but for generations. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. In our current age of artificial intelligence and constant, instant disruption, how is this invisible engine going to have to evolve? What will the governance of tomorrow need to look like to safely and successfully guide the companies of the future? Thanks for watching.